What is up, people? The internet, it is me, Real American Politics, back in with a new video. And as you can tell from the title, this isn't about the Texas primary. I know. Sad, very sad news. But I've decided to condense the marathon of videos into kind of two videos, one on Sunday and one on Monday, because folks, let's be real here, not a lot has changed about the Texas race, as it would be kind of boring and repetitive to repeat the same talking points about Texas's primary. Don Huffines will win, Greg Abbott will win, yada yada yada. So I decided, you know what, for today, I wanted to take some time out of your people's day to talk about two unique states that I maybe touched upon, in early 2020, but this is the first time I'm doing a full-on video on the great states of New Hampshire and Maine. Now, before I forget, you may notice I actually have audio now. My audio sounds crisp. My voice actually, pops. You can actually hear me. I actually learned, the whole audio situation on YouTube. I'm a genius, I know. Now, before I forget, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash that like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit the little bell, and yes. So, New Hampshire and Maine are very unique politically. Now, they're not similar, yet similar at the same time to the rest of the Northeast, which itself could be its own video. I mean, the Northeast politically, very strange. That's all I will say about the Northeast. But New Hampshire and Maine are very different from the rest of the Northeast, as they combine some, fiscal, libertarianism with some social libertarianism, which is very different from the rest of the Northeast, which is more like socially liberal and fiscally I guess you could say neocon, I guess. It's weird. These two states, they're different. Fiscally, they just don't want the government in their lives. Socially, they don't want the government in their lives. So they're very different, as, they're not socially liberal. They're just, we don't want the government in our lives. So there is a big difference, as, social liberalism is just cringe, it's just stupid. As for libertarianism, it's still cringe, but it's just more like the government should not be involved in people's lives. And these two states follow that to a T. I mean, New Hampshire itself is very conservative on economic issues, as in low taxes, low regulation, all of that. So you would think that New Hampshire would have went to Donald Trump in 2020. Well, here's the catch about a state like New Hampshire. Like Maine to a lesser extent, they despise incumbents for no reason. New Hampshire absolutely hates incumbents. That is why every single time an incumbent runs, they always do 6, 7, sometimes 10 points worse in the state of New Hampshire. It's very unique. Why? As I personally don't know. I really don't know why it's like this in New Hampshire. It's the polar opposite of Florida, which loves incumbents. I mean, Bush won Florida by 5 points. So that tells you what Florida is. As for New Hampshire, well, it's won 6, 7, I think 8 points actually. So yeah, it's a very unique state politically. I mean, you would think with them, not caring so much about social issues, but caring mostly about economics, they would love Trump. But just like everything else, there is also another catch with a state like New Hampshire. Now, I'm going to demonstrate this to you. In 2000, Bush won the state by around a point, all right? And that's not a surprise. This state is, fiscally conservative, but at the same time, they're anti-war. This is something key that Trump did not run upon, and what screwed Bush in 2004. So Bush won it by around a point, give or take 0.2 percentage points. In 2004, Kerry and Edwards won the state by exactly the same margin as Bush. So around a 3-ish point swing towards the Democrats. What event happened between 2000 and 2004 that may have caused this? Oh, I know. The war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, New Hampshire despises war. They're an extremely anti-war state. And this is really a good reason why the state did shift towards the Democrats, because Kerry, while not, necessarily a very anti-war candidate, compared to Bush, Kind of. He was kind of more anti-war. And that's a valid reason on why the state did shift towards the Democrats. Also, you can make the argument that the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, they may have like devoted some votes away from the Democrats. So you continuously add that up. Now, 2020 was weird, as Trump did not run on his anti-war message like he did in 2016, which I firmly believe is why it came down to the absolute wire. I mean, Clinton won the state by less than 3,000 votes. That's mostly because of the anti-war message Trump had. And if Trump did the same thing in 2020, I firmly believe he wouldn't have won it. I just think the national environment is not necessarily good for him in 2020, but it still would have been like within 2 points. But now, with what's happening in Afghanistan, what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in the Middle East, everywhere, this anti-war stuff is going to kill Democrats in 2024, no matter who the Republican is. And you start adding this up, the incumbency disadvantage in the state, the state uniquely Republican down ballot, but a bit more Democrat up ballot. We're going to really see in 2022 how that really shifts. If it, votes right of the nation significantly, votes left of the nation significantly. And that would somewhat correlate with how New Hampshire will vote in 2024. But again, I do think if the Republicans ran on a anti-war message, hey, we're going to stop sending our troops over to die in the middle of freaking Afghanistan and focus on the issues here, I personally believe Republicans would win the state by at least 2 points in 2024. Now, the other part of this video is about Maine. And Maine is a bit more, how do I say this, out of there, as it has similar properties as New Hampshire. I would consider, the more Democrat part of the state to be a bit more, libertarian, all right? More like left-leaning libertarianism, which is just more cringe, but necessarily it's just weird. But that's what I consider the 1st district of Maine, where all the Democrat votes come from. It's fairly left-leaning libertarianism. While the rest of the state, the parts that Trump did significantly well with, are the more blue-collar, populist parts of the state. They're very working class. They voted for Obama twice. They voted for Trump twice. The working class, and they are very populist. And just like some voters in New Hampshire, they're very anti-war. And that's what I personally believe caused a bit of a shift in the 2nd district, Trump, again, not running the anti-war messaging and all that stuff. But, again, I do think the national environment did cause a big chunk of these shifts to happen. I mean, you look at 2000 in Maine. Bush lost the state by around 5 percentage points. Again, this county map, compared to what it was to now, is very cursed. And he only lost the 2nd district by around 2 percentage points. In 2004, Bush lost the state by around 9 percentage points. You go down here. By congressional district, look at this. Bush lost it by around 6. So even if the Green Party, did suck up some votes from Bush, he only gained 0.5% of the vote in the 2nd district. Well, Kerry gained around 4 or 5%. That's more than just, the Green Party and the independents sucking up votes. That is more of, again, anti-war messaging. And you start doing some numbers, and that really does play to the argument that I do firmly believe Maine's 2nd is never going Democrat again. It's going to stay Republican forever. It's just going to be a matter of how Republican is it. Down years in 2020, like we saw here, Trump or a Republican like Trump would probably, win the 2nd congressional district by around 6, 7, 8 points. But in a good year, like 2024 will be, you could see Republicans win that by around 10, 11, or 12 points. As for the state as a whole, Republicans do got to find a way to do a little bit better in the 1st district, which again, I would consider a bit more left-leaning libertarianism, not necessarily quote-unquote libertarianism like in Portland, but more so just libertarianism like in New Hampshire, but just more left-leaning. They're more for the gay rights stuff. They're a bit more pro-choice, somewhat. So you start doing some math there, and Republicans could win these 2 states. And how would that affect 2024 or the Senate? Well, let's say Republicans were to win New Hampshire and Maine in 2024, all right? I'm not saying they will, by the way. I do think New Hampshire will flip. Maine, But this makes it a bit more easier. I mean, that's 6 entire electoral votes. Now, that may be saying, oh, what's the big deal? Well, let's just say Republicans, carry the Sun Belt, like Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina. And let's say they did not win these 2 parts. Well, let's say Republicans win Nebraska second. If Republicans were to carry New Hampshire, Maine at large, they would already, it'd be at 269, nice, and most likely would win the presidency via that, and they wouldn't need a state like Nevada. But if they were to lose, all this stuff, and let's say Maine at large, well, they would lose the election. And this is not the only path, by the way, but this is a path where if they win New Hampshire and Maine, hey, you just gotta win, the 260 firewall, or whatever it is. And you just gotta win New Hampshire and Maine, and you win the presidency. That's 6 electoral votes, but that's key if, Nevada doesn't go Republican, or vice versa. So that's why it could be important in the future, if say like Nevada, Arizona, or something wonky like that happens. That could be a spare, pocket type of state, okay, we need some quick electoral votes now. Put some money in New Hampshire and Maine. So again, that's why those 2 states could be key to the future. But at the same time, it also is important for the Senate. Now, you do got 1 senator from those 2 states, Susan Collins. And despite the fact that she's from, Maine, she has a better voting record than some Republicans in places like Utah, South Carolina. It's pathetic. I mean, she's not the best Republican in the world, but considering the fact she's from Maine, it has a more conservative type voting record than some of these Republicans in Utah or South Carolina. That is a sign that, hey, Maine is willing to just deal with those type of, Republicans if they just have more independent-minded opinions. Now, let's say Republicans would win both the Maine Senate races and both the New Hampshire races. Again, these Republicans I would see a bit more libertarian-esque, not necessarily cringe libertarian, just more I guess you could say more Rand Paul type libertarianism, anti-war, just govern on our lives. Well, in the weird scenario that, let's say, I don't know, one of Texas' Senate seats flip, well, Republicans are fine, and somehow, let's say, North Carolina flips, both of them, in fact. Republicans will be at 50-50. If one of Maine's seats is Democrat, they lose a Senate majority possibly for a while, unless, they flip all this stuff. But again, that wouldn't be necessarily the easiest thing to do. So again, these states are not necessarily a must-win for Republicans. They do, however, give, a spare 2 or 3 at most Senate seats and possibly upwards of 6 electoral votes, which could be key in a 2000 style election where it's 3 weeks after the election, nobody knows who won Florida. Those could be key. And if Republicans do the right type of messaging, not necessarily we're going to ban all abortion in those states, but be hey, we're anti-war, and we're going to make sure the government doesn't necessarily, kill your small businesses. That's how you can win those type of states. You don't have to be, cringe. You just got to appeal to those independent-minded voters that just care more about, their small businesses. Not necessarily about, trans rights or crap like that. So that's how you can win a state like Maine and New Hampshire. And both will be key in the future, by the way. Again, with a state like Nevada possibly flipping back and forth, that could be a nice, 6 electoral votes you can win in the future and help us, have another path to the presidency. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit the little bell, and yes. Hope everybody enjoys the new, quality of videos. Finally decided to actually update some stuff. So, yeah. Hope everybody enjoyed, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Godspeed to all of you.